I need to. Oh, I even have it set up to unmute me. What? How about that? Oh, because I have. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I had it. My button sends it to the old one. Anyway, so like not all that work was for nothing until I changed it again. Hi everybody. Let me know if you can hear us and if we sound okay. It's just us. So Sir Nod is Sir Nod and Sir Nod's brother Sir also Not are joining us tonight. Yeah, I didn't realize that was part of the background, and then it is what it is. What are you gonna do? It's it's part of the charm, right? Like figuring this stuff out as we go. All right. Oh, do you want to play at the beginning? We can play it. We can play whenever you want. I just put it one to put in there. You can't hear Edel. Oh, because yeah. Because I forget. I always forget. Okay. Try now.
Hello, hello.
Okay. Yeah, I always forget that
Uh,
part because
yeah,
I remember that I needed to change over the window for the hands, but I forget to do it for the sound.
I think the end is good. Um,
Okay.
in my head it
Oh, the
would be a
stream title.
start of explanations.
Yeah,
We
that
are so good
figures.
at this.
That figures.
Yep.
Uh, do
Uh,
everything and then don't stick the landing,
I mean, when have we ever?
Yeah, fair.
Should
Fair.
probably check Patreon just in case there's new. I mean, I doubt it.
Yeah, I will do that. I will also tweet the thing from the thing.
All right, we'll retweet the thing. Show is just going to become two exhausted parents.
Just trying to get through the day long enough to play a game of Hearthstone.
Oh, thank you, TGA.
Not cone celebrate. Good lord.
Cone.
Okay. I typed cone instead of come.
Ah, yes, well.
Oh wait, did I do that as the show or did I do that as me? Oh no, I did do that as the show. Okay, good.
I realized this week that the mate that I like has 150 milligrams of caffeine.
I don't see a problem with that.
A cup of coffee is like 95.
That's good. That's
And,
good. When you're
and,
sleep
and
deprived, you're gonna need that.
the tea that I usually have is like 45.
Yep, not seeing. Yeah, not seeing any new or leaving producers. I just need to go run and turn the AC down so I don't spontaneously combust. So I'll be back in 1 second.
Sure.
Where the hell did Twitch go now? Oh, I didn't open it yet. That's why. Okay.
Oh, how's it going, chat? Oh, been a long week. Today's my Friday, though.
I wish today was my Friday, but at least I have Monday off, so I'll take it.
Oh, you heard that you got the Bluetooth set up.
Yeah. Look, this is a professional operation now, despite appearances. Yeah. So
Oh, nice, DJ.
Oh, I would like that. I'm just shooting for like less than 4 hours of meetings tomorrow. That's my
Dude, you
goal.
would take just full remote.
Yeah, well, it actually like I've kind of got it down to a science, but it's just like today was messed up because like we had one of our coworkers in from Michigan, so we had lunch with him, and that just like threw off my whole schedule because normally like at lunch I go and walk down to like the pizzeria that's like I don't know a quarter of a mile away. So I get a walk and then I get my usual food that's not too much and not too little, and and then I go and then I walk back. I get my walk. I get vitamin D. I feel a little bit better, and I just didn't have that. And it was just
Yeah.
like from meeting to conducting interview to meeting to yeah, it was a day. But I'm glad to be here, and we will have some fun. So
I'm not gonna lie. After visiting Ann Arbor, I'm like, I know all my family's here, but man, I would not mind living in Ann Arbor. Just
Boston's nice
because
too. Just saying.
my state is
Yeah.
rough right now.
Oh,
Yeah, some bad beats.
well, my state is not likely to be rough for the foreseeable future if you if you need to. So, yeah.
I'm not gonna run though.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
gonna happen.
we're Jews. We always have to have a contingency plan on top of the contingency plan.
Oh
So.
well, yeah. I mean, look, there's always a backup. It's just I prefer to stay with my family.
Yeah. Oh, I should open
A
Audacity.
violin playing werewolf. I did not. I admit that was not on the itinerary.
Is that like a Zelda reference or something, or?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any werewolves in Zelda.
I mean, there could be.
I mean,
They have blood
went to a
moons.
fantastic comic book store and had some great food. It was a good time, and got to try out a cargo bike on a dedicated bike lane, which admittedly my area is like starting to work on bike infrastructure such that hopefully we will have some dedicated bike lanes in like protected, separated, in a decade.
Yeah, I don't think we have those
Stuff
either. We
takes
just
forever.
have like the car lanes that have the little picture of the biker to say like, "Hey, you could ride a bike here, but you probably shouldn't."
Yeah. Dude, the Sharrows, right? Like it says bikes may use full lane.
Yeah.
I had a school bus driver behind me say my vehicle was too slow for the road. I was on an electric scooter, mind you, which like 19 miles an hour is like about what I would be doing biking. But I think like if you're biking, they feel like you're more of a full vehicle. But somehow if you're on something electric that's not as big and not going as fast, like it's not okay. And I didn't have time at the stoplight to like make a case of like, no, actually it's called a speed limit. Like there were two lanes, change lanes to pass.
That conversation doesn't seem like it's gonna have a happy ending.
This bus driver tailgated me.
Yeah, they have places to go.
I was so mad. Anyway.
All right. Should we do a show?
I guess, yeah.
I guess
I mean,
so,
we
okay.
could just like talk about our grievances for another half hour.
Oh, don't tempt me. Not today. Not today, Satan. Not today. Oh, I should be recording. So I am recording. Okay.
Okay. Recording.
Okay. So, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
I grant you permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaft.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Hello and welcome to episode 400 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 15th, 2023 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. And from Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And we don't have a guest today because it felt like it would be sort of strange to have a guest unless we were able to like pull a dev or something for our episode 400. Noodle Swoop, thank you so much. That's very, very generous. And we, wanted to have Hat, but it's also sort of like too soon to have Hat because, like, I don't know, it's been a month or something. So, and Bodicus hasn't really been playing as much Hearthstone, so it wouldn't have made sense to do a patch with him, as nice as it would have been to, talk about Lost Ark. So we figured we haven't done a duo cast yet. We're just going to do the two of us.
Just gonna be a cozy, chill celebration, but it is a celebration, so
Whoa, legendary!
And Weiss is here.
So we have a
We have
cat.
my cat.
There's
We
our
have a cat.
there's our guest host. Vice is our guest
Yeah.
host. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. But from all around the world, we have you listeners. Thank you so much for supporting the show. 400 episodes, really incredible. Really appreciate all of you, the community, the Discord, everyone out there just, listening, tuning in each week, or saving up and binging on a road trip, however you enjoy the show. If you like what you've been hearing, please, leave a 5-star review. Always helps people find the show. But yeah, why don't we just dive right in? Wicked, what have you been doing in Hearthstone?
Raging at Paladins mostly. I was playing mostly Spooky Mage, and that was working until it wasn't, which is, the wicked good story. Is that it was working until it wasn't. It was very good at like the end of last week. And then I tried it again on Monday, and the Paladins had picked up some new tricks, and I think I just also got a little bit tired of getting Countess scammed. Like I think there was one game where they had, I think I won that game, but they had a Stheno that they'd been able to buff, and it took me like 5 or 6 turns to clear it.
Ooh.
And I finally cleared it, and then they played a test that they've been holding all that time. And then they just had this Stheno again. And I was displeased. I think I won that game, and it was one of those games where you win it and you feel like you didn't actually win, or nobody actually won that game. I ended up trying a couple things. I lost to the Druid deck, the Whomper. What the hell's the card? The 5-mana 6/5 that gets the death rattle of a minion in your deck. So I lost to that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try that, and I played exactly one game with it, and then it did exactly like what I was supposed to do, like ramp into Whomper, which drew which was able to get the death rattle off of the taunt, so it off the Flesh Behemoth, so it pulled the Mishmash Mosher, and I was able to play the Mishmash Mosher, and except that the board from the Paladin was already too big, and like the Mishmash Mosher died like halfway into his thing, and I'm like, okay, if I did exactly what I wanted to do, like working as designed, that I can't beat a Paladin despite basically like playing the dream curve that I would dream up if I was doing that Tavern Brawl, then maybe I shouldn't be playing this deck. But I ended up defaulting to Lorinda's Burn Mage, where he runs double copies of Reverberations, and that worked a little bit better. Yeah, and I
so
think
you get super spell damage.
Well, yeah, against Paladin it ends up being more removal than anything else. Like, you can reverb an Egwin, but like I think you were in my chat, you were in my stream at that point, and then like, oh, you should just like reverb the 1/1. I'm like, I'll get something better, and then they played a Leviathan. I'm like, okay, this is why this is in the deck. Like, this is the reason, because you reverb the Leviathan, you still get the 4/5 that gets rushed, and then you get a fresh 4/2, like the back half. So it's pretty good. And I mean, it's decent into like a Deathborn, because then you have two more things that are gonna die. And yeah, if you happen to land it on an Egwin, then like that's the best case scenario. But I don't even think I ever like got a single Egwin to get lethal. I just like chipping them down, just because like it was almost I think when I was playing that stream, it was like Diamond 1 was like 39% Paladin at that point. I think it might have topped 40 at some time in the middle of the week. So it
Wait.
was just like I was just like looking for whatever I could play to beat Paladin, and that was like one of the things that worked. So but I after that I kind of took a break for a couple days just because like I wasn't, you know, it was just getting boring just playing into the same deck over and over again, especially a deck that kind of does the same thing. And I knew that the balance changes were coming at that point. And also I kind of got myself addicted to Vampire Survivors again because they came out.
How?
Well, they came out with the 1.5 update on Monday.
Okay, but like Diablo.
Well, I can't play Diablo on the train at all.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So like I have to do something on the train because I don't have an internet connection, and Diablo is. I played a fair amount. Don't worry, Maureen. I played a fair amount of Diablo this week. Don't worry. That lots of Diablo was had. Our sorcerers are up to like 30, or my sorcerer and her necromancer are up to like 38, I think, and we still haven't gotten out of Act 2 because we just keep doing side quests. But
Oh yeah, I'm never gonna get out of Act 1. It's
well, we finally like maxed out the renown in Act 1, so I'm like, you know what, we really ought to do some more story because we're just not getting anything that's out of this renown right now. It's like, okay, fine. So but yeah, they came out with new content in Vampire Survivors, and there's like a whole like game show wheel mode that I've been trying to unlock for like the last couple of days because I found out when I booted it up that there was like a whole bunch of content since the last time that I got addicted to Vampire Survivors that I hadn't played. So that's been like all I've been playing on the train for like the past like several days. And yeah, and I have not gotten a chance to play since they did the patch because today was in an office day, and then I got home and, you know, didn't have a chance to play. I was not in a headspace to be able to figure out a new meta after I got home after the day that I had today, but I'm looking forward to trying that out on stream. And I saw Tic Tac posting priest screenshots on Twitter today, so that makes me feel a little bit optimistic, but we'll see what happens. But how was your week in Hearthstone this week?
well, okay. So for me, there are just way too many good games right now. Right, we still had Tears of the Kingdom, which is a massive game, and then to have Diablo 4 on top of that, which is also a massive game, is just kind of nuts. And like, I've got a backlog, right? I never finished Elden Ring. I have like barely started Forbidden West. So, and to be quite honest, when I am like watching my nephew all day, Hearthstone is not like always the best relaxation tool. And since I don't want to like have to concede as soon as he wakes up, it's like not the best thing for a nap because I never know how long he's going to nap. And so that would have been sort of my only window to get some Hearthstone in after today's patch. So I also have not played on this patch. But when I have been playing, I'm sorry, Wicked. I'm not that sorry, but I'm a little sorry.
You're not sorry at all. Like we've established this.
Secret Rogue. And Gravedigger's a heck of a card.
It is. I hate it.
I miss Thoughtseize. And you know, it's really good being able to play Thoughtseize in Hearthstone. So yeah, I was doing that. Honestly, the idea started because of Deafen, which is the 1 mana rogue priest card. So see, I was playing priest cards.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, okay.
It silences a minion, and if you've comboed, it deals 2 damage to it. And that card's really good against Paladin.
Oh yeah, that's very good.
I did end up also adding in like 1 Fan of Knives just because of the prevalence of Paladin, just to like really get them. But I was actually seeing a remarkable diversity. I don't know if I was just rolling weird odds, but I like saw a couple of Blood DKs, a Control Priest, whatever. So
that's better. That doesn't sound better.
Towards the end. No, it's not better because like I've actually, you know, without being built towards those, you know, this wasn't running tests or anything, right? Like it was pretty like low to the ground. Secret Rogue, 30 cards, not 40, and I was doing quite well with it. I think honestly, even with hitting some rough matchups, I was still in the like, upwards of 65% for a while, 75. So
Yeah.
it was doing very well for me, particularly when I could silence paladin things. The best was when they like landed the weapon buff on the 2-1 that gives them recruits, and I would just be like, deafen.
That's worth it. Like the enemy of my enemy is my friend in this case, I suppose. But...
Yeah, but then there were also control priests that I beat by getting rid of their hand. So
yeah, that happens. Yeah.
The highlight, the game I sent you though was just 10 out of 10. I got a random of the, what was it? The 4-mana 3/3 hunter card that does damage for each time you've attacked.
Oh, Shock Spitter. That's a throwback.
Shock Spitter. Yeah. So now I did not intend to win with this initially. So I didn't go all in on it from the jump, but I, was eventually like, I might just like need this because they're dealing with the things. We're not really making the other stuff come together. So I just made sure, the Rogue Hero Power is great for that. Just made sure to be able to get a swing in every turn. I don't know if they were running Dirty Rats or if they didn't hit them.
It's a 40 card
maybe.
deck, and you're also sending stuff back into their deck, so they're making it harder to draw.
I was like,
yeah.
I hadn't been ratted so far, so I was just like, well, it has to be a top deck. So this is what we're doing, and they weren't killing me, right? They're a priest.
Well, yeah.
And I eventually just did 36 damage because Shadow Step plus Shadow of Demise or whatever that thing's called. So
that's not okay.
Just 12 damage Shock Spitter 3 times, easy.
God.
All right, never didn't have it.
Oh,
so that was probably the highlight of my week. I have also been working on a hand buff DK. That's been very exciting. Managed to pilot it for pretty good success in my THL match for the week as well. And then my opponent was like, that was really cool. And then said, I tried it out. I added Theron. It seems really good. And I'm like, yeah, Sourfang kind of sucks anyway. So I took out Sourfang, put in Theron. Because I guess things were, kind of slowish besides Paladin. So, and yeah, Hound is a hell of a card, as I'm sure people have noticed from Hunter. But, it's I think basically that deck benefited from Hound and Magatha were the main things that kind of turned it around from where I had been building it previously, which had like Famished Fool and stuff. So now it's just like you keep the hand buff spells no matter what. You keep Nerubian Swarm Guard, and sometimes you keep Fellhound. But I feel like I've talked about that deck a few times on.
You'll share the code again. You'll put the code in the show notes again for people because people ask every time.
This is the thing I've been playing. There's also the Death Rattle Ghoul deck, but yeah. I guess update. I haven't changed the decks I've been playing very much. That's sort of what's been happening. Yeah. And then
Well, you'll have to see if it gets any better with with what you're playing against, because I presumably you were driven to madness to that led you to build the secret rogue because of the paladins you were running into. So
yes, definitely played a big role in that.
Yeah, and the weapon, turning all the things that you spent all that time hand buffing into 3/3s probably didn't feel great either.
That I actually didn't run into that terribly much. Although I guess I banned it in my THL match, so
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Conquest, Miss Conquest, and when you got to ban things, that was fun. Those were the days.
It's great. Yeah. And then I played some Diablo 4 with Smarms, which was fantastic until we tackled one of those like Save the City events and realized we needed a tank because I was playing Sorceress. Yeah, I think so. And she was playing a Necromancer. And we were we're too squishy and like not quite high enough level for this and don't have particularly stellar equipment. So we like banged our heads against it for a little while and then eventually had to bail because it was just not happening.
That's funny because I end up like that's the same combo that Maureen and I have, and I end up playing as the tank as the sorcerer with the way that I'm set up. Maybe I need to send you my build.
So I was electricity to start with.
Yeah.
And then we did a little better when I switched to like fire with like because the flame shield making you immune for a bit is
Oh,
like really strong, and it's the ice place.
Yeah.
Um,
Ice armor's
the-
very good. That's been my go-to.
I mean, well, see, I kind of figured ice wouldn't be effective because it's the Khazra and they use a bunch of ice. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Anyway,
we'll give it a go once, we're actually sufficiently leveled for it. Might have been a little underleveled.
I don't think you can be under. Anyway, this is going to turn into a Diablo show if we're not careful. So
It said suggested level 15 for that area. So
Yeah. I mean, it scales, so it's gonna do whatever you need to do. But yeah, before we turn into Diablo Stone, we should probably talk about the news because we had quite a bit of it today.
I guess that's true, huh?
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So yeah, we got a balance patch today, and that is something that got announced on Tuesday, got teased on Tuesday, and a fairly significant one, all told. A number of things that have been, I mean, Paladin got hit in several different directions, and we got another fairly significant hit to a card that's been dodging nerfs for a while. But I guess we can just kind of talk through it. And we'll start with the dev comment as always. The meta is in a pretty healthy place right now, and a lot of players seem to be enjoying the post mini set meta. So we're trying not to be too disruptive with this round of changes. We're making some smaller adjustments to tone down a few emerging meta outliers and to give a little more power to some of the mini set cards that have not gotten much attention. So this is a significant balance patch, but not really a huge balance patch. Like we've had 20, 30 card balance patches in the past, and this is more of a series of nudges. And given that Paladin again was at like 40% at Diamond 1, you could imagine them taking the banhammer, but they did these feel like kind of restrained changes, all things considered. So the 3 changes to Paladin, first of all, the Purator is going from 5 mana to 6 mana. Disco Maul is going from a 2 mana 2/2 weapon to a 3 mana 3/2 weapon. And Feast and Famine, which is the 1 mana spell that says give your hero +3 attack this turn, Mana Thirst 4 and Lifesteal, that is going to 2 mana. So in the dev comment, Pure Paladin has been a strong deck for a while now. After this latest patch, we saw a jump in the deck's power to the point where it's now a dominant power outlier at all levels of play. Purator is the best card in the best deck by every measure, so it was an easy target for change. We expected to still see play after getting toned down a little. Disco Maul is a card we've had our eyes on for a while, and this felt like the appropriate time to act on it. Finally, we've seen a lot of power come from Horn of the Windlord Feast and Famine combo, but we can see that Horn of the Windlord isn't a problem in Shaman, so we're adjusting the other half of the combo to make it a little slower overall and less flexible on non-combo turns. So, Adel, what were your thoughts when you saw these? Like, do you feel like this addresses the problem, or too much, too little?
Yeah, so I think it is a good place to start and then sort of reevaluate because, again, Paladin is that kind of class that people like play it when it's really broken, but otherwise are not often drawn to its play patterns. So I like that they didn't just like completely slam it into the ground. Purator now at 6 is a kind of card where maybe you keep it in the mulligan, but it's like it's tough to keep a 6 in the mulligan. If you are especially against anything faster. Whereas 5, it's like not typically, but when it's that good, like you just do it.
Yeah.
So like Hound is 6, and it's a card where it's like sometimes you keep it, but if you fall too far behind, even it will not be good enough. So I think that'll work fine, and I like that they hit Feast and Famine instead of the weapon. I think a lot of folks were calling for the Horn immediately, and they know better than us whether there's going to be a Shaman attack buff, but Doomhammer was right there anyway. So
Right.
It's fine to me to hit Feast and Famine instead of the weapon, just so that Shaman can still have access to it as, a form of burst, a form of control, depending on what deck it's in. And I like the card generally. It adds a new element to Paladin. But you've doubled the cost of, making the attacks huge.
Right. So it's going to be a little harder to get the lifesteal on the turn that you play the weapon. It's going to give you it theoretically, right? Given that this is a proactive deck that doesn't want the games to go too long, it's probably going to play out the weapon and then save the Feast and Famine for the following turn, which means that you have you have another turn to get under them if you're an aggressive deck, because they're going to need that extra mana in order to get the Reno effect. But also that means that if they're doing that, then you have a chance to get a Viper down on it before that they can do that. Right. Whereas if they're on 7 and they just play the weapon and swing in pre-nerf, then you can have the Viper all you want, but it's not actually going to do anything because the damage is already done. So, I mean, the second swings are still 6 damage. It's not nothing, but it's not, it's a lot different than, 11 damage twice and then letting you heal or whatever it happens to be, right? Like, I mean, even just one of them would be 12 damage total, and that's 12 damage with lifesteal. So that's enough to get them out of danger and then be able to finish the game out. So I think that's a good change. I guess I was surprised by it because the fact that Shaman still does have Doomhammer in standard, that they don't necessarily need another Wind Fury weapon. Like, there are only so many Wind Fury weapons you can have, right? And
they serve very different roles, though.
Well, but that's my point, right? Is that it seemed like this was intended to be more of a defensive tool, which is why I was talking about Can't Attack Heroes last week when we were talking about it. And of course we both
sure.
Which is in retrospect obvious because it was the best card in that deck and it wasn't close. But it's I guess, I mean, I'm okay with this. It took me a second to kind of think about how this is going to play out, but it does make sense that it should slow that down and just either give you ways to deal with it from both directions, right? Like, it gives an aggro deck another turn, which might be all that an aggro deck needs, and it gives a control deck a chance to actually like play the tech card that they would play if they need to play it. Though I would hope we were going to see less Rust Drop Vipers in the meta, but we might not, because Enraged Warrior wasn't affected by this patch, and I would expect that Enraged Warrior would take the top spot or like at least a playable spot, and then that's still got plenty of good targets for a Rust Drop Viper, so maybe it is still in there. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this. I would imagine this will get it below the 40% mark in play rate. I don't know that it'll, I mean, if we get it down below 10, that's fine, right? Like, anything above like 20% play rate's kind of bananas anyway, and 40 was just like, I mean, that was getting to like Karazhan mid-range Shaman levels of play at that point. So, like, I don't think that 3 nerfs is excessive there.
Well, and I think, you were saying how Tic Tac is playing some Priest again. I think that's a matchup that really got a lot better from this change, because what you would do as the Paladin is, you do all your counter stuff, whatever, but you also would just hold on to the horn and try and build up a couple of Feast and Famines, maybe a for Quel'Thalas. Now, the most you can do the turn you play it is to play the 2 Feast and Famines. You can't like do the 2 Feast and Famines and a for Quel'Thalas.
Yeah.
And that also is turn 10. So it's not like turn 8 you can suddenly get your 18 damage. You got to wait all the way until turn 10, which gives the Priest, much more time to try and heal up, deal with the other stuff you've been doing. And I'm not thrilled about that, but I am glad that other slow things also get a little more time.
It just felt demoralizing when you would just like chip them down. All of a sudden it's like, well, okay, I'm gonna heal for 12 or 14 or whatever, or 16 or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, your turn, and then they still have the weapon lying around, and it's just like, that's not okay. Like, let's not do that. So I'm glad that they you know, they saw that and they took appropriate action on it. I mean, 3 nerfs is about the most of that we've seen any deck get hit with, you know, at once. So it's a pretty clear message about what the intention of this patch is. But there was another fairly significant change that's been either was not the right time or you know, a long time coming, depending on what your point of view is. Lady Steno is going from 2 attack to 1 attack. And the dev comment is there's a growing negative sentiment about Spell Demon Hunter, especially at the top levels of play, and particularly with the class closing out games in the same way for a long time. There were a few choices for us on which cards to adjust, but Lady Steno seemed like the best target to have the biggest impact on play experience and player sentiment. I have seen some people posting Steno with Crazed Alchemist today, which is certainly a thing that you can do. But that also was a thing that you could do when Rowdy Fan got nerfed, because it's the same effective, you know, attack buff. Realistically, right. Well, I guess it's only +2 now. It's +3, effectively. But that's something that you could have done before. People were already playing Abusive Sergeant with it, which is a +2 buff. So, you know, for 1 mana, it's awkward, right? And it doesn't really do anything outside of that, as opposed to the other cards in the deck that would just buff attack on anything that you could use a little bit more flexibly. But I mean, I think that this is the Demon Hunter aficionados are going to be upset about this, but I think that it's, you know, Drown was becoming a meme, or it was already a meme, and it definitely feels bad when you get burst down by it. And it was doubly so because you would get burst down from it by a paladin on top of Demon Hunter, just adding insult to injury, especially because paladin has all the attack buffs, right? So it was just like a double whammy. And in this set, like, you're not even safe for it when you're not playing against Demon Hunters. But I think that it's good to allow a little bit more diversity in the Demon Hunter space, and Relic Demon Hunter is going to be fine. They were already starting to cut Lady Steno, but it was some of like the Spell Demon Hunters and even like Outcast Demon Hunter to a lesser extent that were kind of relying on this for bursting down the opponent, and now they're going to have to figure out a more clever win condition than just slam Steno in the deck and you know, go to town.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems a little risky to me. On the one hand, I think it's great for like Outcast DH and Big DH or Relic DH to have an excuse to cut S'theno, because now you have to be building around her to really want to include her in the deck. But also, the deck ostensibly that they wanted to nerf through this was the Spell DH, and I kind of feel like it's the one most able to adapt and still use her. It's definitely worse, you know, you have to, but you were already doing the Abusive Sergeant and such. So it's interesting. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's sort of like, well, S'theno gets removed from everything else, but is still in either Spell DH or some other kind of, you know, just S'theno focused deck. We still have Abyssal Depths, right? So if you wanted to not be full spell, but, you know, make sure that S'theno and either Abusive or the Crazed Alchemist are like the only cheap minions, you could do that. I guess maybe that's not as good because of Silvermoon Arcanist, but yeah, like people can still try and do this. And on the one hand, I like that because I really like S'theno as a card, and it would have been sad to see it just like only attack minions or something like that. Or go to 5 mana, which is what I feel like it would have to be. But it's still maybe a little dangerous if you're building around it. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the difference is that you have to find 2 Bound Souls in Spell DH now, whereas you sometimes could just get there.
That's true.
With the damage, and it's going to be a lot harder to get there with the damage if you don't have a buff. And I think it's worth mentioning that like Predation was supposed to be effectively nerfing around, or it was kind of nerfing around Steno, and it didn't work, right?
Right.
Because like that was the intention of the predation nerf, to bring it down to 2 mana, or 2 damage rather, to cut down on the damage output from hand, and it didn't matter, and the decks just kept running it and kept running Steno, and it was fine. Like it was a little bit less damage, but it ultimately didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because the fact that the spell cost 0 was more important than the actual damage that it put out. I mean, it was it mattered on the fringes, but it didn't make enough of a dent. And like, you can keep changing the cards around Steno, or you can address the problem, right? Because like it sounds like they were going to try to nerf another card that was like a Steno accessory, and then try and see if that was going to work, and then we'd be back in this same spot, because like whatever they're going to nerf like is not going to matter, right? I'm pretty confident of that. Like they could, I mean, either it's not going to matter, or it's just going to make like Demon Hunter as a whole unplayable, because so many of their spells are cheap that you're either like deleting a spell that's keeping that's like load bearing spell, or you're not going to really do anything, like what happened with Predation. So it makes sense if the goal is to cut down on the number of games that Steno ends, then let's actually address the problem, which is something that like I feel like we've talked about this a lot, is like the way that the balanced approach of maybe the last year or so has been to make a lot of small changes around the card that's the problem, and hope that brings the play rate of the card down, rather than just changing the card that's fairly popular. And I'm glad that they even though some people are upset about it, I'm glad that they actually like addressed the card that was the problem that people were upset about, and not the cards that were around it.
I mean, there would have been many people upset if it hadn't been changed after the number of screenshots of this is how I died on turn 6, etc. And while there are still ways to get the attack up, I don't want to mitigate the fact that this is half the damage, and when you're lowering one attack on something that attacks many, many times, like that's pretty significant, right? Unlike Predation, which was just -1 damage, maybe up to -4 if you like discovered extras off of Fell Finale card. And yeah, this is, well, no matter what, it's 1 less damage on each attack. So hopefully that at least slows down, in the sense that they have to have some other thing to buff the attack to make it, really relevant.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I would imagine that Steno is a big exit point for a number of players. Like that's the kind of thing that, especially, I mean, certainly at lower ranks, like you just like, they play a minion and then you die. And it's like, well, what was I supposed to do about that? Right. Like if you're a player who's like just out of like, the apprentice ranks, and all of a sudden you run into that, like that's like, what the hell was I supposed to do about that? I've had that same reaction playing control decks, right? And thinking, okay, well, I'm fine. And then I die from like 35 health because like they just had a Steno and like a million spells. So
especially when it's like turn 6, Silvermoon Arcanist, 1 to 2 Felscream blasts, clear your board, you try and rebuild, and then the next turn you're just dead.
Right. Yeah. It's like and like the way you do it is you play a board, and then they just they unleash Fel and wipe your board, and then you don't have a board, and you don't have another board that you can build, and so we also had a change to Hope of Quel'The the Lost, which is the Hunter legendary weapon, the 6 mana 4/2 weapon. After your hero attacks, give your minions +1/+1 wherever they are. That is going to a 6 mana 3/2 weapon. And dev comment, Big Hunter emerges another power outlier after the mini set additions of Howl Hound and Star Power. We think the deck is fun and cool, and we want to see players continue to enjoy it. We also don't want it to become too powerful after the other adjustments this patch. This is a small preemptive adjustment to shave a little bit of its power. And I mean, I think this is when you have a weapon like this that has like such a powerful effect, and you're playing it for the powerful effect, and we've seen this a bunch of times, like it doesn't also need to hit you for 4. Right, like that seems like we've seen that before. Like if you're playing if you're attacking with the weapon for an effect, it doesn't need to hit you as hard as it does, and that seems like a fair change.
Yeah, and this thing is serious, that effect. Like buffing all your hand, deck, and board, like that is massive. Particularly, it curves into Hydrolodon, right? Which is a big board. You can, if you've got the time, you play this on 6 and follow up with Hollowhound, and because you got that first swing plus the second one, like that's a 5 attack Hollowhound. Like Quel'Thalas just does so much work in Hybrid Hunter now. So yeah, I think it's pretty justified.
Yeah. I also just want to add, not necessarily in terms of a power level, but just like for those of you who are making decisions about what to dust in your collection, this is the reason we don't dust cards that don't see play in standard right away. Right? Because this came out in March of the Lich King, and it was basically unplayable for like that entire set, right? And then it ended up as part of this deck, and it was so powerful that it needed to get nerfed. And like that's the reason you don't necessarily want to just dust things right away, because like they do change in power level as time goes on, and sometimes they get so powerful that you would get the dust for free if you just wait a couple months. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, and we'll move on to Pazik, who is going from a 5/4 to a 4/4, and dev comments, statistically, Pazik is the highest win rate neutral legendary in the game and has been criminally underplayed. I don't know that sentence to me. I don't. Was he criminally underplayed?
Yeah,
Because I saw a lot of him. I don't know.
Well, after VS report, right? Before VS was like, for the love of God, put Pazik in your decks.
Yeah.
It was not really seeing a ton of play. People were like only running it in very specific things. And like, look, the card definitely falls off after turn 4 or turn 3 on the coin. But when you get it on curve, I mean, there are times where I'm like, this isn't that bad, playing a 3/3 this turn and next turn. And then I'm like, how did I lose that game? And I'm like, oh yeah,
Right.
I had to make terrible plays on turn 4 and 5. So it's, yeah. And there's even in some ways like elements of, well, let me put 2 things in my opponent's hand that are junk, and like either they don't play them and I get good value, or maybe I get to burn a card because it went in their hand. Like it's just been really solid. And
or you've played Solar Eclipse Due Process right before that, or something like that.
yeah, sure.
I mean, some people just want to watch the world burn in addition to the cards in their opponent's hands. So,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But Pazik was definitely, ticking up in play. And I mean, it's a very good card. And it doesn't, like, the body doesn't need to be a 5/4. It's fine. I think everyone will be fine with that.
Look, it's so pretty now. 4/4/4.
Oh, it's very symmetrical. Yes. Lots of course. Crimson Clergy is banned in Wild because of the draw your deck Radiant Elemental deck. I have seen some people saying just fix Radiant Elemental, because like it's the Sorcerer's Apprentice problem all over again, that like it's putting a band-aid on the problem. Like obviously like Crimson Clergy kind of enabled that deck because you can just play all those cards for free, but also you couldn't play all those cards for free if Radiant Elemental wasn't a thing. And I feel like I'm like channeling Bodicus from like 2 or 3 years ago. Like don't let things discount below 1, right? But but I mean that deck was, and I've also seen some people saying like that's not the real problem in Wild, that's just the flashy problem in Wild, which I don't play enough Wild to really have an opinion on it, but at least like that, I could tell. I know that from the Discord, especially people who play Wild a little bit more casually, like that's another deck that just feels awful to lose to, especially because it's just like you just sit there and wait for them to play with all their cards. So and then you get into the whole are people animation cheating arguments again, which we don't need that. So
yeah.
So those are all available for full dust for the next 2 weeks. Reminder that you can search refund in the collection to find all of those. And if you are asking, should I dust those or not? The answer is always yes. Go ahead and dust them. If you just hold on to the dust. If you find that they're still played, then recraft them. But if you're not sure and you think you might need the dust, go ahead and dust them now, because if you dust them and then decide you want to keep them, you have forever to do that. If you wait and then decide that you want to dust it later and you forget, then you have a chance of missing it. So just do it now, and then you can always recraft them later.
Ah, yes, a measure of impulse control.
I mean, you get to press the dust button, which feels good, right? It's like dopamine. It's fun.
Yes, but then can you withhold and not craft? That is the impulse control.
Well, yes, that's the challenge. We also had a couple of buffs. Rhythm Dancer Risa, which I believe was one of your cards you didn't understand from when we were doing the set review.
Yup.
So Rhythm Dancer Risa, which is the 4 mana, it was a 5 mana 3/5 with Rush. After your hero attacks, return this to your hand and set its cost to 1. So now it is a 4 mana 3/5. So in your bounce around featuring Garona deck, you can do that, and let us know how it turns out. Fiddlefire Imp, which is the Mage Warlock Demon with Battlecry, add a random Fire Mage and Fire Warlock spell to your hand. Is going up from a 3/2 to a 3/3. So it's at least a little bit more tanky, and it'll survive a couple more things. So maybe that'll... I guess Imp Warlock might... It feels like it's still weird for the Imp Warlock curve, right? Like, I don't...
Yeah, it is better being a 3/3. Like, I would basically take out Imp Gang Boss for this and hope I hit burst damage out of the mage.
Yeah.
Or even, I guess, Hellfire or something. Probably where it'll end up seeing play is people that just want to play Casino Mage and have more randomly generated crap. And so that's where they would put it. But yeah, I don't know. It's better.
I mean, if you want to play Immolate, this is the card for you, because it will give you Immolate a lot of the time. Because there are not that many fire spells in Warlock. So, I mean, it could get better also after... we get more fire spells in Warlock specifically. Like, it's, the pool is like Hellfire and I think Arson Accusation and Immolate, and maybe there's one other one, but those are most of them. So,
No, it's just those 3.
Yeah, so that's, not amazing. But, some people do like to just immolate their opponent, so that's a thing you can do. So also, Remix Dispensobot, which was the 4 mana 4/4 mech with an ability, gains an extra effect in your hand that changes each turn, is going to a 3 mana 3/3. So that's one that I've seen some people pretty excited about, as a reminder, because I'm sure very few people have ever seen this card played. I certainly have not. The 4 effects are Battlecry get 2 random frost spells, Battlecry get 2 random mechs, Battlecry get 2 coins, or Battlecry get 2 random mage secrets. So for 3 mana, that's a pretty good rate.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you could in some ways say, well, you can put this in Secret Mage, you can put this in Mech Mage, because you can wait to play it on the turn where it gives you the thing you want. I don't know if that's necessarily how you want to do it. I do kind of like it in Mech Mage just because it at least already is a mech.
Right.
And you don't mind getting the 2 coins, you don't mind getting the 2 mechs, that's half of them. Every once in a while, you won't mind the secret. So I think you want to be willing to be like flexible with what you get. And I feel like Mech Mage is most able to do that, particularly as people have been running reverberations in Mech Mage. So getting something like the 2 coins might be really nice for saving up for that Mecha Shark, double reverb turn or something. Because you can get a lot of Mecha Shark damage with the reverberations.
Yeah. I mean, even in like the 40 card Spooky Mage, you might be able to find room for this. Like, the frost spells are fine. Like, I mean, you already run Blizzard, Solid Alibi, Cold Case. Like, you'd be fine with getting 2 more frost spells. Like, even things like Snap Freeze aren't that bad, or Ice Barrier, right? Like, they're generally like the more defensive spells. So like, I think you'd be okay with those. Certainly, like, you take secrets off of like Vast Wisdom that's generated, or Infinitize the Maxitude or whatever, just because those are a little bit, because you make your opponent play around the secret effectively, right? So, yeah. And because it's just like random, then they don't know what to play around, so it can mess them up. It's always objection, but you have to play around everything anyway. And and then coins are just good in that deck too.
Yep.
So it's really just like, okay, if it's mechs, maybe you wait a turn, right? But other than that, like all those effects are fairly good. They're not worth 4 mana, but maybe they're worth 3. I mean, I don't know that you cut like Nerubian Vizier feels like the thing that you would probably like. It would be that slot, and I don't think you're cutting Nerubian Vizier necessarily. But maybe in the 40 card version you might, because you just don't have that many undead aside from landing a Deathboard or a Cold Case. I don't know.
Yeah. Just kind of feels solid to me at this point. Whereas 4 was awkward since a lot of mage decks want to run volume up and or Cold Case. Like it's just a dense slot at 4 in mage right now.
Yeah.
And 3/3/3 with upside feels a lot more tolerable.
Yeah, I mean 3 is like the location turn, right? Like that's generally like all you're doing on 3 a lot of the time. So and like having more odd costed cards to help get the finale on Maxitude in that deck is also not irrelevant. Just because like it's sometimes you just end up with so many even cards. You're on an odd costed turn, or you've played like you played like an amplifier or an audio amplifier or something like that, and then you just can't get the finale to go off. So having some 3-cost spells, and if you're getting the secrets, that's more 3-cost, or 3-cost minion that also gives you 3-cost spells. That's not bad either. Or the coins to help kind of even out the mana curve.
This is the duality of our two mindsets, right? You're thinking about the greedy mage, and I'm over here like, yeah, I want to kill people with mecha sharks.
Yeah, this is the yin and yang of Coin Conceit in a nutshell, right there. Yeah. So we also have Battlegrounds updates. We have some changes to some heroes. Arana is going from after you refresh 5 times, Bob always has 7 minions, to after 16 friendly minions attack, the first minion you buy every turn is free. So that's a complete rework of Arana.
Yeah.
So it's I don't really know what to think about it necessarily, but it's just kind of changing. It's changing the way that you play that hero entirely, because it's instead of just like spamming refresh to get the shop full, now you're getting a free minion every turn, but you have to build a big board initially in order to get there. And I don't know what that does, but it's a completely different hero now. So be aware of that.
Yeah. Whether or not it is good, I kind of think this is the route that they have to go if they are not going to be removing heroes from the pool that are pretty bad, because people want to be able to use their cosmetics or whatever. You have to be able to rework heroes. I mean, look, even League of Legends every once in a while would rework an old hero totally who's just outdated or not performing, and I think that's kind of something that you've got to do, because sometimes people really like a thing but it's bad, and so they feel like they have this choice of like, well, I can play the good hero or the hero I like. So I think they're not always going to hit, but I think this is the right approach for heroes that are low win rate.
Yeah, I would just like it if they printed fewer heroes overall and just reworked more of them, but it's fine. Sure. It's good that they're doing it. So
I think they've slowed down from previously.
They have. The Curator is going from a 2/2 amalgam to a 1/1 amalgam with Venomous. So, that seems like an upgrade, but I mean, to give it Venomous on top of all the minion types seems like it's pretty good. You start with that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
ETC's buddy, Talent Scout, is going from tier 3 to tier 5. The battle cry makes a buddy golden. You get buddies from the hero power. That seems pretty good. That seems like something ought to be at tier 5. So that's something else. ETC's hero power assigned new artist respects the tavern tier you're currently at. So raising Talent Scout's tier means that it can't be discovered until later in the game. Oh, so I guess that was the problem, is people were discovering ETC's buddy off the hero power. Yeah, that's disgusting. Okay, great.
Because remember, buddies aren't in, so it's not like ETC was getting the buddy, but the fact that you would like get something halfway decent and then just like try and hit Talent Scout at 3 it was probably almost that you would stay at 3 for a bit so you could get a couple talent
Yeah.
scouts before
And the pool's
know,
going to be smaller at
gearing up.
3 because there are just fewer buddies in general, so the discover odds
Yeah.
are better. Yeah. Oh, that's gross. Like that seems like a good change. And then there are some. We're not going to go through all the minion changes one by one. There are a bunch of them. Check out the patch notes. I don't. I definitely have not played enough BGs lately, certainly since the patch, to be able to speak to this. I don't know if you have, Edel, or if there's anything that caught your eye.
Yeah, not so much. I think the most notable is that something that had been a battle cry, they made a death rattle, which was the minion that makes blood gems get +1 attack. That's now a death rattle. So instead of having both that and the one that adds health, and the one that adds health be opposing, they're now both death rattles. So it means that, well, one, you can't Bran this one anymore, but also it's just a little more sane, right? That you can just like put them both down with a Baron, keep that for a while until your blood gems are sufficiently buffed, and then get rid of them. Also, like, Rylak just does crazy things in BGs, so it being a battle cry meant that you would like put one next to a Rylak and be
bad things would happen.
Whole thing.
Yeah. So whole bunch of changes. Go check those out. I am not qualified to speak to all of them, and there's a lot of them. But
hang on, correction, I've made a mistake. So I'm sorry. The change here is that they moved the death rattle one down a tier, so they're both tier 3. So everything I just said is incorrect.
Well, then set a marker and we'll fix it in post.
The health one is the battle cry, and it's still a battle cry. It's just they're both tier 3, which I think also makes sense. So just because you want to be ramping those things up earlier.
Incorporeal Corporal has been removed from the pool, and Rothhide Knoll has been returned to the pool as well. So, I would recommend you read through the patch notes because there's a lot of changes, and some of them probably more significant than others. We also have a number of changes to duels. Again, we're not going to go through these in depth one by one, though I do think that the Reno hero power arcane craftiness was fire 2 missiles at random enemies that each do 1 damage. If any minion dies, repeat this. Is now fire 2 missiles at random enemy minions that deal 1 damage. If any minion dies, repeat this. So that hero power does not go face anymore, and thank goodness. Like, I have not played a lot of duels recently, but when I have, running into a Reno that had gotten offered a bunch of wildfires and was able to just pump up the hero power, and then once they can do that, like, your minions are going to die, and then you get into this weird spot, kind of like the Sinful Brand and Spell Demon Hunter, where if you play minions, then you're going to lose, but if you don't play minions, then you're going to lose. So the only way to win is not to play. So I'm glad that they finally changed that to only hit minions. Roguish Maneuvers, which is the hero power that gives you a 1/2 dagger, and if combo give you a 2/2 dagger instead, is now 2 mana instead of 1 mana. And they keep messing with Brand's Dino tracking hero power. This is the one that used to be discover a card in your deck, and then they changed it around, and then it became discover a beast, and then that was just bad. So now it's discover a beast, give it +1 attack. So surely
probably still bad.
It's probably still bad, but at least it's got
also
+1 attack.
It's more explicitly a Warsong Commander.
Yes, but it comes with a free Frogurt, so they had some changes to some signature treasures, a couple of passive treasures. It looks like they're taking some health off of the after you play your first discovering a card, all friendly minions gain. It was +1/+1, now it's +1 attack. I think that's good, just because anything that makes sports snowball, especially early, is difficult. And now, and they're changing the pirate one from after you play your first pirate each turn, summon a Patches the Pirate out of nowhere, to after you play your first pirate each turn, add a Patches the Pirate to your deck, so that the next pirate that you play will summon the Patches. So you're
Okay.
summoning like half as many Patches, I guess.
But see, the biggest patch in here is actually not even Hearthstone. It is HS Replay.
Yes. Well, we'll get there in a second, but anyway, we'll
I'm
skip
sorry.
the rest of
I'm
these.
like, I'm tuning out through the duels. I love you,
Okay.
duels players. I'm just not sure.
Yeah,
I
and
could go over all of it.
we can do that, and the bug fixes are fairly irrelevant. Also, there's some localization issues that they fixed. I think there's still some more from what I've been seeing lately. That there are probably still some more localization things, but yes, we will we'll move over to other news, and yes, definitely one of the biggest things is that HS Replay is now supporting ETC. So you no longer need to ask what's in ETC when you get a deck list from HS Replay, and you can start asking how is ETC, because he's been feeling kind of neglected lately. But it was very frustrating to copy a deck list from HS Replay and have it not have the cards that were in ETC. So now it does. So you can you have that available to you when you go to HS Replay. And also there was, if you are interested in sound design, there was an article on the Inside BattleNet blog on that featured the Hearthstone sound design team that was behind some of the sound effects for this set. So if you have an interest in sound design, it's an interesting interview, and you should go check that out as well. But we're gonna finish up with news because like we have some tournament things to discuss, like
We do
multiple
indeed.
tournament things. So let's go ahead and do that.
It's the grand tournament.
So first of all, there was a LAN over the weekend. Like, what year is this? And so of course it was Team Solary, because anything that's, involves any sort of production, any sort of large scale production at all is probably coming out of Team Solary in France. And they had a LAN, over 100 players participated. It was over the weekend, and Odemian, who's a player for Solary, won the tournament. So it was a 2-day tournament, 9 Swiss rounds, then top 16 advanced into single elimination. So the first 7 Swiss rounds were on day 1, and then then day 2 was the last 2 Swiss rounds, and then top 16. There were a number of other European players: Gabby, Warma, Tars, Diz Demon, A-Rock, Baby Bear, and John Bray were all there. Odemian's lineup, again, this is all pre-patch, was they're calling it Chad. I guess Donkey calls it Chad Druid, which is the Hedge Maze deck. And then he had the I think this is this Ultimate Hunter, I guess that what they're calling it now. I
Been
can't
calling it Hybrid Hunter. I think HS Replay calls it Hound Hunter.
Mid-range Hunter. We can call it Mid-range Hunter. That'll make all the Hunter mains upset. We'll call it that. I don't know.
I mean, a hybrid, I feel like, is the
Yeah.
I don't know. How do we not upset people and still call it mid-range?
And still call it mid-range. Yeah. And he was playing a 30 card Spooky Mage. With not Burn, but running around Ramath and Kel'Thuzad, Star Power, Blizzard, Deathborn, but only running without Renathal. So that, I'm sure that warms your heart, Adel, because I know you don't like Renathal on the Spooky Mage. So
I don't.
Yeah.
This
And
is the better list.
yeah, and in Rage Warrior. So yeah, he had a 7-2 record, and then was able to win the top 16. So there are VODs. I'll have a link to the show notes to this excellent write-up from Esports GG, where you can check out a lot of the recap. You can watch some of the VODs of the event as well. And hopefully there will be more like this. But there will actually be one like this weekend.
Well,
Well,
it's not quite like
that, but it's Clark Hellscream organized the Hellscream Cup, which our own Edelweiss is casting along with Rebobson at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern, Adel?
Man, don't remind
Oh
me.
my God.
Yeah.
They have an 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday? I'm gonna have to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning to watch this?
Well, it's tomorrow and Saturday.
Oh, it's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's June 16th.
Saturday might actually start a little later because there's less stuff going on, right? So it's like it's like semis and then finals on Saturday, so not as much to cover. Friday will be pretty interesting. So there's a band list for this event. And initially, Clark gave us kind of the concept and then and like some suggestions, and then Rebobson and I kind of got together and finalized things. And basically it's like the obvious decks, you can't do those. It's that's kind of the approach of the ban list is we sort of took away most of the obvious tools, so people have to think a little bit harder about what they want to do. Maybe you can still do certain decks, but you just have to figure out how to do them without a couple of key cards, or maybe you just try something that normally hasn't been able to shine, but in a depowered format, maybe it can. So curious to see what people come up with. Should be fun to cast with Robson. It is kind of early, so rip Pacific viewers, I'm sorry, but Robson is in the UK, so with that 6-hour time difference, we had to make sure it was early.
He should accommodate you, not the other way around.
Well, I think there's a lot of EU players as well.
Oh, I guess they can. Yeah. You can accommodate them, I suppose. Baby Bear and John Ray, we can move the time for them. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I'll be up for work because I have to get the kids out onto the bus by 6:45. So I'll be awake. So I'll be able to watch, at least until I get sucked into meetings, inevitably. So there's also, if you are looking to participate in a tournament this weekend, Community Gaming Series 11 is going to be taking place not this weekend, but next week on July 22nd, which is a Thursday. So this is going to be starting at 3 p.m. Pacific, which is 6 p.m. Eastern, with check-ins 1 hour before. There will be $150 to each of the top 4 plus HS replay subscriptions for finalists, and now you can even get your ETC out of the decks there, so that's even more value. And they will be streaming the finals. Rain will be casting it in Spanish. It'll be a single elimination conquest best of 3 with a ban with open deck lists that are going to be submitted on Yay Tears or Donkey. So if you are interested, we will have a link in the show notes. Go sign up for that ahead of time, and that's a good way to get into a this is one of the only open tournaments that we have available right now to play Conquest. So if you want to get some of that the old Masters Tour qualifier feel, this is the closest you're going to get right now. So, though there is another option if you're looking to play competitive, which is the Coin Concede Listener League, which we will be kicking off an abbreviated schedule on Monday. Signups will also be in the show notes, and they've been posted in the Discord. So go and sign up for that, and then we'll have that kicking off for a short season. Over the next few weeks. It's very low pressure. A lot of people play fun decks or tier fun decks, and it's worth trying if you've been interested in competitive Hearthstone, and even something like THL seems like a little bit too much out of reach. Then this is a good way to get started and see if you like it, and then see if you want to move on to something like THL or Community Gaming Series or something else where you're playing competitively.
Yeah, it's really nice to see community tournaments coming up again. I mean, obviously ours pretty low stakes, chill, yes. But all the stuff Community Gaming has been doing, and Clark now coming out here with this. Obviously, we aspire to maybe one day have something like Solary over here in Americas, but baby steps.
From your mouth to God's ears. Oh, and Rain is in the chat, and he's correcting me. The prize pool for the Community Gaming Tournament is a $150 total prize pool. So it's $70 for first place, $40 for second place, then $20 for third and fourth. So yeah, so it's not $150 for each. It's $150 split across the top 4.
Yeah, still,
Okay.
it's
Yeah, it's
mostly for the clout. Anyway,
it's more money than
right?
you would have if you didn't play. So.
True.
But yeah, so that's tournaments, and I guess we can go and talk about our feelings for a little bit, given that it's episode 400. So why don't we do that?
Perfect time to pair. So we thought about doing something like what we did with Hat in terms of what we learned, except it'd probably be mostly the same things. So I kind of thought we could maybe talk a little bit about how Coin Concede has changed us or changed our lives in sort of a more broad way. Not necessarily learned, but just had an impact. And Wicked had already done some history homework here, and this is pretty incredible. So just to run things down, we've got so for myself, my first guest appearance, April 2018. Wait, number 130? That doesn't mean episode 132, does it?
Yeah, it sure does.
That's not.
That's what I am looking at it. I'm looking at it on the website right now.
Wow.
Yep.
That's forever ago.
You had just gotten back from Copa America 2018. And
Right.
the Witchwood had just come out. And yes, and you were talking about the Witchwood, and it was Hat and Bot and Appa. Yeah.
That is like unreal.
Yeah.
I thought like over the tenure of Coin Concede that would have shown up much later, but yeah, that's nuts.
That was
Odemian in
5 years
tournament.
ago. That was 5 years ago, Edel.
Wait. Oh man.
Because they were doing that was
Yeah.
when they were doing HCT stops, and they did like the year before. I think the year before the pandemic was when they moved to the Masters Tour, like the last Masters Tour program. So that was the last year of the HCT stops was 2018.
Yeah. Big year for me. I mean, it was I had been in Philly for a little bit at that point. I think I had just had surgery because I like flew to Rio kind of the soonest as I was allowed to fly after my surgery. So that was an experience, but yeah, it was like Odemian, Rage.
Rage, that's a name I haven't heard in forever.
Yeah. Oh man, Muzzy, Savitz. No, not Savitz.
Savitz would have been casting if he was there.
No.
And I don't even think he was casting
It
at
was
that point
Zalay, which I
Oh yeah.
much less cool.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite person there, I think hasn't been playing Hearthstone for a while, and so I can't remember his name. But yeah, there were a lot of cool people, and I mostly hung out with the Latina folks. That was where I met Nayara because she was casting.
Oh wow, yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense actually.
And I signed up with Swagoi before that event, which was cool. And it really, got me interested in this whole online community thing. It was weird to be. I think that's probably the first podcast episode I ever did. Was that?
I actually remember listening to this because it was the weekend of PAX East, and I was listening to it on the train coming home from PAX East that year. So I actually remember like where I was listening to this episode, which is there's a lot of episodes. I don't remember that about all of them, but I do remember like you being on the show and me listening to it on the way back from PAX that year.
Oh man. And then your first appearance was just like a month earlier.
I
which
know,
I
right?
did not
It's-
expect.
It's bizarre. It was like right around the same time. I mean, and I've been doing Off Curve for not even that long, I guess, because I think I started Off Curve in 2017, and so I hadn't been doing it that long. And then they had me on the show. Yeah, and we're and that was talking about the Witchwood reveals, and of course Priest, because that's a thing that I talk about on podcasts occasionally. Some things change, some things don't. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but yeah, it was right around the same time. It was 5 years ago. That's wild that it was like that close.
Yeah, 1 month. Crazy.
Yeah.
I got to make a reappearance a bit sooner because I had WSOE, and that was a whole thing, or at least I assume that's December 2018. So after WSOE 2, I got to hop on, talk about how I missed my chance. If I had beaten Patra, I could have been on broadcast, and like maybe people would have known who I was a little bit sooner. But it was a heck of a tournament. Still, I think most fun tournament I ever played in. All women, 16 of us, and the production value was the most I've ever seen and ever will see, because
God.
people are not putting that much money into esports anymore. But that was insane.
It was like off the charts, like over the top what they were doing with the production value. Like they were showing like what they could do if they wanted to make an esports event look like a professional sporting event.
Right.
And they really came with their A game, and it was impressive as hell. And I remember like watching the pick ban phase was a little bit, it seemed stressful, even just watching it, let alone trying to figure out how to do it. But I remember it was just like a long, it felt like a league pick ban segment, just watching the pick bans because the format was that you had to build a deck for like all 9 classes, and then like you picked one and banned one from your, I don't even remember, I mean obviously you know better than us, but it was weird.
Yeah, it was a strange form of snake draft, pretty much. It was like you would, alternate picking and banning decks. So it'd be like, I pick a deck, then my opponent picks a deck, then I ban a deck, then they ban a deck, then I pick 2, then something weird like that. I don't remember exactly the specifics, but, alternating picking decks, banning decks. And so you had to have this like adaptive strategy of like, well, if they ban this, then I'm going to pick this to go into that one of theirs. And since you had to have a deck list for every class, it was pretty impactful when they murdered Druid, or at least seemed to murder Druid.
In the middle of the night, like a thief.
Yeah. It was, I remember, like, we got maybe a little bit of extra time on submissions, but I was up until like 3 a.m. on a call with Ray C, just like, what do I do? I mean, I guess it's got to be Spiteful Druid, right? Because what the heck else do you do now that they just hit Nourish and Innervate? Like, we were frantic. And it was still like most fun I ever had, in spite of it being crazy. Probably a bigger deal was the fact that they also killed Shutterwalk Shaman. And I know that hit Cora pretty hard, as well as a couple other people that had been really learning that deck.
Yeah, and that was back in the days when like nerfs were not like on any sort. Like we know when to expect nerfs, like relatively, there's a reasonable schedule. Like that was just it was clear that they needed to get that before everybody left for Christmas break. And they got the patch notes out. It was literally in like 11 o'clock at night that they dropped the patch notes, and everybody was taken by surprise. And yeah, I could not even imagine like being in a hotel room for a big event like that, all of a sudden having to like, your entire lineup got thrown up in the air. Like, oh my God, I would probably vomit. Like I can't even imagine what that would have been like.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, but I'm still proud of what I managed to do, and you know, I still like Patra, even if she crushed my dreams of being on that big stage, like actually on stream, because I had like the end of one of my matches streamed. Because at this time, no one knew who the heck I was. The only reason I got to go at all was because, oh gosh, a Chinese player who would not be a household name anymore, but was at the time.
Eloise?
Eloise, yeah, Eloise.
Okay.
She was not able to go, some kind of visa thing or something, I think. And so Ray kind of did me a solid and built up this kind of approach of like, hey, like Justine and Edelweiss are people who are not content creators, but like actually have been performing in competitive. Like one of them should get an invite. Because I had also been at other thing that starts with a W, a Chinese based
WESG, right?
Yeah, WESG, like earlier in the year. So like 2018 was my year. And then, you know, I didn't have another one. But it in the moment, somehow everything fell into place. Really owe a ton to Racy for that. And I got to go and meet everyone. That was fantastic. They were actually this was kind of wild. So Teebs was there and Bloody was there as well. So a surprising number of trans women at this event, which was great. Although I don't think people knew necessarily that I was trans at the time.
No, I mean that was since you were on the show that you came out, right? So it was
Yeah.
And and Bloody didn't play Hearthstone for that much longer after she transitioned.
Yeah, well, she went really hard on Artifact, and honestly, it did well for her. She was fantastic at Artifact, and ultimately she built a great stream community around, you know, sort of trans pride and safe space and everything, and that has just allowed her to kind of play whatever games she wants. You know, she's a great variety streamer, and still I think mostly card games and things, but
yeah.
Lots of flexibility.
Like I remember first interacting with her when she was still working for Smash GG, and like, and I think that was one of the dream hacks that was running off of that, because I remember interacting with her about getting the off curve data on the, you know, for DreamHack, and getting the stuff out of the API so I could build a dashboard for DreamHack. That was one of the first tournaments that I was able to do. So yeah, it's it's weird how, I mean, like not that we haven't been friends like a lot of this time, like before both of us were on the show, but like how we kind of had a lot of crossover in like some of these spaces too. It was kind of cool. Like not even necessarily knowing it, like a lot of these like kind of, you know, interactions with the same people.
And then the next time I was on, not tournament related, was just kind of subbing in for bot. Mana Worm had just gotten nerfed. It says there's plenty of trash talk towards poor innocent Mana Worm. Can tell Hat was disappointed. And that was when they did the Curse of Hakar infecting the ladder.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, everyone getting that card back, which is interesting. And then we were talking about Face Hunter. And then I was on again later 2019. So that first one was February, and this one was April, episode 181. The scheme. Dr. Boom scheme. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So
that was when they were doing the specialist control warrior mirrors, and somebody actually won a match with Dr. Boom scheme. That was what that was.
So this was actually one of those like pick cards to talk about, you know, ones we're excited to play with and don't understand.
Because that was before it came out, before Rise of Shadows.
Yeah. And so Dr. Boom scheme, it might have been my card I don't understand, or maybe, I don't know. It was certainly someone's. And I was pretty confident that this card used to do shuffle that many bombs in, and then they were like, oh wait, that's way too good, and they made it gain armor instead, and it just became a horrendous card. Because the art also looks like something related to bombs.
Yeah,
not
I mean
armor.
that I think they said definitively like that got reworked to hell when they before the set got released, because it was going to be disgusting if there was like shuffle X number of bombs into your deck. Like that would have been just broken. So at least they caught that one before it came out, because Bomb Warrior was already like kind of a force for the next like 2 years, and like that would have been like over the top. So
yeah. And then you were on next, June 2019 that year.
yeah, talking
Episode
about data.
191.
Yeah, talking about numbers. As was my thing back then when I still had data to show, because we had a competitive system and I was running off curve and doing, I mean, I still do data for a living. So, you know, that's still a thing I do, but I don't have, you know, the dashboards updating anymore just because there's nothing to update. But, you know, I was able to talk about that and talk about how to use the data, and using data on HS Replay also has been a topic that I've opined about more than once, especially when you would get Hat and I together to talk about data, and you know, the requisite yelling about data episodes. So yeah, that was, you know, I mean, it's still a thing that I get passionate about, and we just don't talk about it enough, because it's like we have enough opportunities to talk about it, but you know, it's the kind of thing that I will get wound up about and talk about for a while if you let me. So you're muted.
And then we were each on for different types of bonus episodes.
Yeah.
So I did this Women in Gaming roundtable because this wasn't Gamergate, but I don't know. There was some
It was well after
rhetoric.
That,
yeah, there was an uptick in like pretty misogynistic stuff in gaming and in the Hearthstone space in particular. And so we did this roundtable where Hat kind of moderated, and then it was myself and Nicolina and I think maybe Cora. I don't
Cora and Teebs,
remember
according
exactly.
to the description.
Yeah. And so that was, I think, one of our kind of best things to have put out in the world. I think Hat was pretty proud of that, and I'm really glad that it came together. Honestly, it was pretty nice for those of us that did it, just as a sort of like release. I don't know,
Like catharsis.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you got to do BlizzCon. I still haven't been to a BlizzCon, but you got to record.
We'll get you to a BlizzCon. We're gonna get you
2019.
to a BlizzCon. We'll be able to do Lunchstone 2023 this year. We'll make it happen. But yeah, I went out because that was my first BlizzCon 2019, and I went and I got to hang out with Andrew Brown from the Happy Hearthstone. He actually had a friend who worked at Blizzard. He was able to get me and the family a tour of the campus, which was pretty cool before that. And then you know, that day the first day of BlizzCon, we had, you know, all the announcements, and then we immediately ran to Battlegrounds and played it, and then got through it, and then immediately ran back around to play it again. Also, I mean, I think the next day I made a beeline for Diablo 4 as soon as the show opened on the Saturday. So that I got to do that, because that was important. And that was 4 years ago that, you know, I got to play that, and then finally it came out. But yeah, Bot Ubered us to this little like dive bar / burger place. And we just, and Hat had a portable recorder, and we just talked about everything all at once, and then wrapped it up and called it a podcast. And I remember that meal. Like, it's funny that I remember, like, my memories of that BlizzCon revolve more around like food and meals than they do of the actual like the actual show is a blur. But I remember like that meal and then going to Denny's with them and Deck Tech. And I was still like sort of gluten free at the time, so I couldn't get like pancakes. I don't remember what the hell I got.
Oh,
But
tragic.
yeah, this was like at the end of my gluten free phase. And this was the beginning of the end because like, the literal first thing we did when we landed in California was get In-N-Out because, that's just what you do.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we had this like wrap up dinner like the last night of the show with Deck Tech and Hat and Bot and a whole bunch of other people. And yeah, it was like, it was honestly some of the most fun I had in my life. Like, I mean, and we, like I've said, we merged that with a Disney tour for like the whole family came out. They went to Disney while I was at the show, and and then I got to go to Disneyland after that. So it was, and then I was hoping that was going to be an annual thing, and then well, not so much. But that's what happens. But yeah,
Then we entered a time warp space during
Yeah.
the pandemic, and there just was no BlizzCons for
yeah.
several years. So
Uh,
hopefully we can start making it a
knock
an
on
every year
wood.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe down the line I can pull your same trick and bring the fam, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
I mean, you could
Hmm.
have Rachel. You have like 3 babysitters that can help Rachel out. So can make that work.
We'll just pass them off a bit. Rachel can go build a lightsaber at some point.
Yeah.
While I watch.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, it'll be good.
Just ride it to Small World
But-
a few times.
I actually haven't been to the California one. As a kid, I went to
Oh, it's very
the
good.
Florida Disney place. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
We
was-
actually liked Disneyland better than Disney World, and we used to go to Disney World a bunch. So
yeah. I mean, I'm not supposed to go to Florida anymore.
yeah. Neither. I mean, I don't really want to either. So yeah.
But that brings us to when we each joined the show, which is, for me, April 2020, episode 236. So 36 episodes to go until it's my personal 200th episode.
That's actually kind of wild if you think about it, right? Because like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of episodes. Like I did 200 episodes of Off Curve, just like as a show, and you've done almost as much of that just being on this one. So
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that because of the whole pandemic time warp thing,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just like everything feels forever and not that long ago. But it was a weird time because April was like, at that point we knew, right?
yeah,
We knew it was happening. We didn't know how long, but we knew it was happening. And yeah, they had been doing the duo cast for a bit. And after those, guest episodes, they finally decided to have me join on a permanent basis. It's still, yeah, I guess, I don't know. Here it still says on the site makes a guest appearance
yeah.
to help
And
speculate
I'm
on
not
the
sure.
upcoming
Yeah,
guests.
and there might have been a couple more guest appearances, but you were effectively on the show every week after that. So
Like at that point, it was like, yeah, it was regular guests into eventual permanent. So it's kind of hard to say when is but yeah, it was a blast. And I remember feeling like kind of bad that I just like came and talked each week, and that was the only thing I did. I wish I had some metric of knowing like when I actually started editing the show, because I know that took a while before I ended up doing that. But I've sort of, it has been great for me doing the editing, and also, yeah, it makes me really feel like, I don't know, more of a contributor.
well, yeah. I mean, I had the same feeling until all of a sudden I'm running the stream and posting the episodes. So
You might be doing more than me at this point, to be honest. I
might
mean,
be,
editing's
yeah.
a lot, but
yeah.
oof, I would be fumbling with all
Well,
the student
I
stuff.
you know, it's like everything. You figure it out because you don't have a choice, right? So,
Yeah. And then almost 100 episodes later,
yeah. I mean,
you joined.
I'm the baby of us now, but yeah, I mean, and that was a big deal, like, you know, choosing to effectively shut down Off Curve and come on, but it also had been something that I'd kind of wanted for a long time, but also never really thought was something that even if I was asked that I would be able to make work.
Hmm.
Like I'd done these kinds of podcasts before, like, a long time ago before I was doing Hearthstone content, and they were a lot of time commitment. They were a lot of, coordination and stuff like that. And I was kind of not sure if it was something that I was going to be able to make work or not. And, and had asked me and had asked me at the worst possible time. Cause I was in like literally in the middle of like one of the worst months at work that I've ever had. Just like, nonstop, like, system issues that were going on for like several weeks, and then performance reviews on top of it. And like, I think I was in the middle of like what I thought at the time was a panic attack, and I think I know now it was like an autistic shutdown or an
Hmm.
autistic meltdown that I was in the middle of. And then he messaged me like, "Hey, I got a question for you. You want to be on CoinKitsy?" I'm like, "Can I answer you in a week?" Because I should not be making any life-changing decisions right now. Thank you. Like I'm not saying no, but I'm saying I can't answer you right now. I mean, hat's
Uh-huh.
hat. So it's like, and that was and and I thought about it a lot, and I decided that what I wanted to do was talk about Hearthstone with two of my friends every week, and that's what we did. And I mean, it's been amazing, getting to do this. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter how like exhausted I am at the end of the day, and when we start recording this, like, I feel energized at the end of it, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like excited to play hard. It doesn't matter like how much I hate the meta and how much I'm swearing at Thief Rogues or whatever, right? Like, we finish recording this show every week, and every week I'm excited to play Hearthstone again. And
Yeah.
that's been like one of the best parts for me. And I mean, if just kind of going into what, like how we've changed since we, joined the show. And I've only been on the show a year and a quarter, right? So I've been doing Hearthstone content. I'm Hearthstone podcast since 2018, but that was mostly on Off Curve. So I mean, since I joined the show, I mean, I think that one of the things that I was very, very concerned about my rank, and very concerned about
Hmm.
getting myself to 11x ranks and proving that I could play at those ranks. And
Yeah.
and kind of in a state where I felt like my rank kind of justified my ability to continue to create content in this space to some extent. Like I got very tied up in that for a little while, and I know that I was like 11x was like an aspirational thing, sort of, to kind of prove to myself that I could be there. And I think that I both did that, and then proved to myself that it doesn't matter as much as I thought it did, right? And kind of got myself to a healthier place with the game, despite the fact that I'm doing more content now than I was before, really, right? But like, and I'm still streaming twice a week on top of this, but I have kind of come to a peace with the fact that there are going to be months where I'm just not enjoying the game as much, and if I'm not enjoying the game, then I'm not going to jam as many games to get myself to 11x. And that also, there are external factors that are going to affect like how well I'm going to play. Part of that is ADHD, and part of it is just like, the demands of like a demanding job, and a family, and not everything that's outside of the game. And that's going to also, that I'm like pushing 45, and I'm not a kid anymore that can just sit and jam games and like and make that my life's work, right? But Um, but I feel like that's kind of been a healthier way for me to approach the game, and not have to hyper focus on my rank as much, and I think that part of that also is, I mean, something that I've just like, since I've joined the show, it's not related to it, but it's something that a journey that I've been going on that I haven't really spent a lot of time talking about, but kind of the discovery that not only do I ADHD I've talked about for a long time, like since I got diagnosed in 2015, I've been talking about it on Off Curve and on Twitter for a long time, but like that I have been going down the road of an autism diagnosis as well. I haven't actually gotten an official diagnosis, but I've gone through it with my therapist, and it's the kind of thing where you kind of enough things fit that it's there, and I haven't really been as vocal about that because I haven't, and I'll be honest, I haven't really felt like, not having the official diagnosis, I've been a little bit hesitant about it, but it's also that's something that's kind of been going hand in hand with this, and me learning those things about myself, and then learning like that the things that are happening during the day or during the week are affecting me in a way that it's draining me more than someone who's neurotypical, and how that's affecting like my ability to play the game at the end of the day, because like it feeds into that too, because like I'm not playing till I'm done. I'm done working and everything else at the end of the day, and like I've had streams where I'm just playing like crap, and it's like Friday night, and I've had like 8 hours of meetings on my no meeting Friday, and I'm just like playing like garbage, and I'm just like, I'm playing like garbage, I'm sorry, like it's just like, it is what it is. But it's also like recognizing now that like I'm playing like garbage, but I am not a garbage player, right? And that those are two very different things. And like the fact that I don't have access to my skills right now in the moment doesn't mean that I have lost those skills. It just means that I've taken on too much, and I can't pull from that as much to be able to play at the high level that I expect for myself. And I think that's kind of helped me come to peace a lot with it too, is kind of understanding how all these things kind of intertwine, and the fact that I'm going to have good days and bad days because of things that are outside of my control, or because it takes me more effort and more energy than it does a neurotypical person to just get through the day sometimes. And so like, yeah, if it's 8 o'clock at night and I'm not playing well, and I'm not playing around things that I should be playing around, it's because I don't have the mental energy left for it. And it lets me be a little bit more compassionate about myself, and then not stress about having to continually prove to myself that I'm still good at the game, because I haven't just like lost it. I'm just not able to play at that level today, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think my sort of version of some of those things was that I identified myself as a competitive player. And
Yeah.
so my tournament performance was everything. And I mean, it is how I got noticed to become a guest on the show in the first place. So I'm, thankful to have gotten to do that. But I think I hit a certain point where I was sort of feeling like, oh gosh, I peaked in 2018 and like have not been able to hit that again. What does that mean for me, with this game? And being part of Coin Concede, making content, even though it's not like YouTube content the way other people do it, it's still just getting on each week and like making sure I played to like have stuff to talk about, which I'm better at some weeks more than others. Honestly, I got more comfortable. The longer I've been on the show, the more I've gotten comfortable with like, it's okay to not have been playing because other stuff was happening. I think I started playing more games besides Hearthstone since I've been on Coin Concede than before, because I felt like, I don't know, more justified, more able to like seeing other people who played other games rather than just being like, this is the thing I do and I must be competitive. It for sure sort of shifted my perspective. I've also learned that I am a terrible coach. I'm sorry for everyone who has been getting coachings from me. They're more like co-ops than coachings, or at least I kind of feel like it, because I try and pull lessons in there at the end, but I feel like I can sometimes do a little bit too much of the like, okay, do this, do this, do this, do
Yeah.
this, rather than, um, but
It also depends on
uh,
what the person wants too. Like sometimes you have
yeah,
people who
yeah,
get come for coaching and they really just want to they want to see how somebody who's more skilled plays the deck, right? And then sometimes there are, and I always try to ask people when I do coaching, right? Like, what do you want to get out of this, right? Because like there are some people who are just like, well, I haven't played in a while and I just don't know what to do with this deck. Okay, well then I'll
uh-huh,
walk you through it. And then there's some people like, I really want to work on my sequencing. Okay, then I'm gonna shut up and you're gonna play and I'm gonna tell you before you play the cards if it's the right thing to do or not. And I think, but it depends on what the person's trying to get out of it too. I think some people just like want to hang out for an hour, which is also fine.
yeah, which I kind of think is ultimately what it,
Yeah.
it is with me, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, and your rank's higher than I am right now. I'm not sure this is what we call coaching.
Maybe you're
But
coaching me, yeah. Like
but I think still ultimately I do enjoy that time and getting sort of window into other people's lives. I think one of the biggest things that I have taken away from the Hearthstone community through Coin and Seed has been seeing parents who game.
Yeah.
And I think sort of as time passed, and like I always knew that my wife wanted to have a child, and I think I sort of post coming out kind of as the years went was more and more like, I don't know if I want to have a kid anymore. Like it just was this thing that sort of hung over me. And one of the things I stressed about was that it sort of felt like we were going to, as soon as we were having any kind of money to do anything fun and interesting, we were about to add a new person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of tough. But seeing other parents who like, still play games and stuff and still have vacations, right? Like, it's tough. It's a different lifestyle. And
Yeah.
there are going to be things that I won't be able to do that I would have been able to if we were I believe they call it DINK, double income, no kids.
Yes.
But ultimately it sort of toned down that anxious part of my brain, just seeing all these other parents in the Hearthstone community, and uh, yeah, getting to talk with people during coachings and everything about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't like people say that, right? Like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to give up the video games. Like I mean, you can imagine what I was like when I had before we had kids, right? And like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to give up the video games. Like, no, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm just gonna play games that have a pause button, right? Like that's really the main difference. And like, and yeah, like laddering on Hearthstone probably takes on a little bit of a different place when you don't know if the kid's gonna wake up. But also like like I remember I when the twins were like one, I was carrying one of them around and slammed my left foot into the side of the bed so hard
Oof.
that I broke my pinky toe.
Oh my gosh.
And that was how I played through Mass Effect 2. So because I couldn't move, right? So I was just
Uh-huh.
I just played through Mass Effect 2 sitting on the thing with my leg up. But I mean, I don't recommend that as a way to to get your game time. It was not fun. But like ultimately, like you find ways to play to continue to play games, and like eventually they get old enough and then you get to play games with them, and that's a different kind of fun, right? And it takes a little bit longer
Yeah.
than you would like generally, but yeah, it's like just becoming a parent doesn't mean that you have to give up everything that makes you, right? I think is kind of the thing that I was scared about before I had kids, was being afraid that I was gonna have to give up like everything that I enjoyed because I wasn't gonna have time for it. And like you don't have as much time. You budget it, right? But you make time, and it's important for you to be able to enjoy the things that give you joy outside of keeping a child alive, and right, especially in the first couple of years. It's important for you to get time to eh, connect with the things that bring you joy and happiness outside of the family too, and that makes you more well-rounded person.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful to have a partner who's understanding of that. Like,
Yeah.
but the fact that I'm going to go to BlizzCon this year when child is going to be 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a whole new journey.
Yeah, but you're gonna be great at it. Like I think you and Rachel will have this down, and it's an adjustment, but you just kind of you figure it out, and it's like me figuring out how to run the stream. You do it because you don't have a choice, so it's but you figure it out, and it's eventually you get to the point where I am, where I'm listening to Radiohead with one of the twins, and playing Nintendo games with the oldest, and it's fun in a different sort of way. And then you can also be the cool parent who streams, like I was when I picked them up from camp. So
yeah, I mean, this is going to be the thing. On the one hand, risky, right? I don't really care for having 12-year-olds pop up in my chat or something.
Oh yeah,
but,
not that that's happened to anybody on this podcast.
Yeah, but that aside, I definitely have the more fun hobbies. I mean, look, I'm sure they're still going to learn Hebrew and all of that, but if we're talking like who has the more fun hobby, I think it's going to be the board games and the video games and the sports. So yeah. So I suppose just one final thing. I don't interact too much in the Discord, which I'm sure people know, with the exception a little bit of my little corner of like deck building, theory crafting stuff. But I do still like, see stuff and read things, and it has been just awesome to be a part of this community, and that I think is a big deal, knowing just how many good people there are out there. We may not agree on everything, but ultimately, like, we can bond over this shared interest and be humanized enough to like, agree to disagree on things where we have conflict. And it's tough to find that.
Yeah.
It's tough to find communities like that where you can have reasonable discussions with folks and be like, yeah, I don't feel that way, but
and not turn into the Hearthstone subreddit. Yeah, like
yeah, well, I don't touch Reddit, and
well, now neither does anybody else, but that's beside the point.
I was just gonna say.
but yeah, I mean, I think I like the community that has popped up around the show is special, and I think that I won't speak for you, but I'm sure that this probably resonates with you too. That like when Hat did say that he was, he when he told us that he got the job, and then like it wasn't even a thought of like, are we going to keep doing the show or not? Of course we are, both because we still enjoy doing it, but also because like this community is special, and it deserves to live on, and like this community isn't necessarily dependent on the podcast, but I mean it grew up around the podcast, and I feel like that's something that it's so special. It's I feel like a sense of responsibility, for making sure that community continues to be, and because it's not easy to get a group of gamers together and have them be respectful and positive, and and keep each other from getting toxic, right? I mean, it's not even like, I mean, I'm in meetings all day. I can't always be there in the Discord, and Hat has a full-time job, and he's not on constantly in our Discord because he's in the Hearthstone Discord. But like, that folks will help each other stay on track too, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a really special community to get there, and it's an honor to me to be, to be a custodian of that. It just doesn't happen very often. Yeah. So yeah, 400 more, right? Like, we got at least another 400 in us, right?
Look, I'm young. I've got no like sights set on being a dev or anything. I'm chilling, right? We can do this.
Me neither. I'm not going to work for a game company. They don't need my skills. So.
Oh, and I like the flexibility at this point. This is the other piece of me having a kid being a homemaker, is like, it will be a homemaker plus content. So I'm excited.
You and Maureen can run Diablo dungeons together while you're both home during the day.
Oh dear. Yeah.
But I guess it wouldn't be a 400, so we couldn't get Hat on, and it's a little too soon, but he did take the time to leave us a message, and I haven't listened to this yet. I don't know if you have, but
I have not. No.
Okay, so we're gonna all listen to this for the first time together. But here's a message from Hat.
Well, hi everyone. Wanted to make sure I dropped by to talk to you again. I won't be on this episode, but I wanted to leave you all this note, say how proud I am of the show's growth after my departure, and really how grateful I am for you all as part of this community. It's been a lot of fun to listen to the rotating cast of guest hosts, and I'm grateful that I've been able to stay connected to the hosts and the listeners. The job so far has been an absolute whirlwind. Everyone here is super rad and smart and busy all the time, and I have been blown away by the effort that's put into polishing the game. It's really hard to express, so instead I'll say that I'm so privileged to work here and help make Hearthstone the best it can be. But while I'm having a blast, I can say I miss talking to you all behind the mic. Fortunately, my podcasting skills have translated well to meetings here at the job, and people have been impressed by my ability to segue. I hope you're all doing well, and I really can't wait to listen to episode 400 as a fan of the show. And if you see me on ladder, I'm no longer formally requesting a coin concede. Instead, I'd like it if you said hello. Enjoy the episode.
I did tell him on Twitter the other day that a conference call is just a podcast with a really small and specific audience.
I think we were supposed to play that at the top of the show.
I guess we were, but we're playing it now. So, he didn't tell us when to play it, so we played it. I felt it was probably more appropriate at the end, but I guess it might have been better at the beginning. But that's also because I didn't want to be surprised. I wanted to be surprised on the show, so I didn't listen to it ahead of time. So I guess we'll know for episode 500, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. I think episode 500, he'll have been settled enough. I'll actually submit the request like early enough, and maybe we can get him on for episode 500 in 2 years. Yeah, that's how time works.
Yeah. So
yes.
So we'll pencil into your calendar for 2 years from now, and we'll get that to happen.
Discounting Blister Guy because that's cheating. Maybe we can be the longest running, right? Or like we might be able to surpass TAC.
We might, yeah. I
think that's 506.
Oh yeah, we'll get there, no problem. I'm not worried.
The Wicked Ysera forever.
But I guess we should wrap up this show before we have to just start recording the next one.
Oh, indeed. Duocast does not necessarily mean shorter show, everyone.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know why we thought it might, but
Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, DogeTK, Crash, Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Fade to Black, Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, and Enraged Chicken. We had a few subs during the show. So the Grand Arcanum subbed and then gifted 5 subs. We Baldwin Greg, Noodle Swoop subbed and then gifted 10 subs, and then Mr. Bungalow and Matt at Arms also subbed. So thank you all for that. A bit more because of the whole occasion.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it to you first.
Okay, Coin Concedes. Yeah, so I guess Coin Concede to Cora and Kenny and Kevin and Cinder and Andres and Appa and Bodicus and Hat, who, all, paved the way for us to be here now, right? I mean, this has been a rotating cast over the years, and we're lucky and privileged enough to be sitting in these seats now, but also keeping this tradition from folks who came before. And this podcast obviously wouldn't be anything without the work that they did over the years. So thanks to all of you, and hopefully we're doing all of you proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Coin Concede to everyone who paved the way for this. 400 episodes. Obviously, we haven't been on for 400 episodes, but it's still an incredible milestone. And I can't believe how far back some of our personal landmarks are, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that I still feel like you're kind of fresh on the show, and it's been
just
like
joined
well
yesterday.
over a year.
I'm new here. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's been almost a year and a half already, and it's like I don't know how that happened. Like that just I just joined yesterday. I don't know what happened that I've been doing it this long, but yeah, it's weird. We've been doing this just every week and just churning them out. Like I missed one episode over this, which was for the twins B'nai Mitzvah, and they just had their birthday this past weekend, so Coin Concede to them too. So that was a year ago. So yeah, it's wild that it's been that long, but yeah.
And then I will Coin Concede to Clark as well for putting on this Hellscream tournament. Should be fun, very different with the bizarre ban list. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be a blast to cast that with Robobson. By the time this hits people's feed, it will be over, but I'm sure you'll be able to check out the VODs.
And we'll talk about it on the show next week because we'll have a tournament to talk about. And hopefully I will be out of meetings enough to be able to watch some of it tomorrow. So pray for Mojo. But I guess until then, keep calm and have a slice of cake. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Two hours. 2 hours just
Sounds
the two of
about
us.
right.
Okay. Yep, that does. That sounds on brand. Yeah, it sure does.
Sounds like memory lane.
Yep. Okay. But I mean, hopefully it should be a little bit easier edit for you just with 2 tracks, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be.
Hopefully. Knock on wood. All right. Well, we should find someone to raid. Let's see who's streaming.
Not too many. Just pizza from.
Oh,
around
Tito.
Mexico.
Yeah, we can
Warshak.
raid Tito. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tito's got 5 people. We can raid him. Okay. So let me do that. What is his? I need his username. Okay. Whoops. All right, so we're gonna send you all over to Tito. If I can get this to work, which is always a crapshoot at the end of the stream. It did work. Okay, so we're gonna send you all over to Tito. Thanks everybody. Thanks for all the subs. Thanks for everybody for hanging out. Thanks for being here as part of all this and indulging our trip down memory lane. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.